If you were to be asked what's the most immersive game you've ever played, you might be thinking of such classics like Milo for the Xbox Kinect.
Hiya Milo, how you doing?
Hi Claire, you okay?
Just kidding. You're probably thinking of maybe some hyper-realistic VR games, or maybe a massive AAA title with a ginormous world and an immersive story. But for me, it's... I'm not joking when I say Rogue Lineage is probably my favorite game of all time, and I'll be the first to admit, yeah, it's probably a nostalgia glaze, but do you know how hard it is to explain to people why a Roblox game is my favorite game of all time? So I'm just gonna condense all my thoughts on Rogue in this video essay, and explain what made it so special, not just to me, but thousands of people.
Alright, so this is Rogue Lineage. This is going to be a Rogue Lineage video. I'm going to start covering videos on Rogue Lineage once I start to get better at the game.
In 2019, Rogue Lineage released into, and this is gonna send shivers down some of y'all's spines, closed community. This meant you couldn't play it unless you were invited by the developers. So generally the closed community, or CC, really only consisted of friends, friends of friends, and YouTubers. Roblox at this time was extremely dry and full of the same anime game slop, but with YouTubers like Infernasu making videos on Rogue during its closed state, people quickly realized just how much more there was to this game, and with increasing popularity, they eventually released it publicly as paid access for only a handful of Robux. So what is Rogue Lineage? Reading the description for the game, this is all that it tells you. This game is incredibly difficult with little to no hand-holding. Enter at your own risk. Furthermore, it says, Rogue Lineage is a fantasy game with roguelike elements. This game revolves around a permadeath mechanic where each of your characters will have but a few lives before they die forever. You'll pass down some pieces of yourself to your heir, who will become your next character. Players will progress by learning new abilities and trying to best their previous characters. Forge houses with your friends to take control of cities or stick it out alone. Tackle injuries, diseases, and trauma as you struggle to survive in this testament to pain. It goes into the basic concepts of the game, but it doesn't really tell you much about what the game actually entails, and that's a common theme with it. When you load in, you're given an NPC who explains basic things like how to get money by finding and selling trinkets, and also an extremely basic synopsis of how the karma system works. Other than that, you have to figure out everything else in this game on your own. It doesn't explain what all the numbers on your health bar are, it doesn't explain how class progression works, it doesn't explain how mana and spells work, it just throws you in and says, have fun! And partly that contributed to what made Rogue feel so special. The feeling of discovery. And being a permadeath game, discovery and exploration came with risk. You constantly felt like a victim of the world, dying in the most unfortunate ways and losing everything you've worked for in only a short few moments. No! 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 But that insatiable thirst for knowledge, to get an edge over the world, to understand and get stronger, it overcame any fear you had. No matter how many times I got my character's wipe, I found myself coming right back to start a new character, learning more and more each time, optimizing my routes, playing carefully to avoid getting jumped by other players. Rogue Lineage made you play with fear. That little life counter on your health bar was everything. It wasn't just your character's life, but it represented maybe the last 10 to 20 hours of your life that you invested into them. You developed a relationship with your character, and for that reason, Rogue Lineage is the most immersive game I've ever experienced. It sounds so stupid, but when my character was put in mortifying situations, I was terrified.
Oh, did you see that? Oh my gosh. That was probably the closest call I've ever had. Holy shit, I actually survived that. Dude, I'm like... Oh my god, again? In the exact same way?
My own adrenaline was so closely linked to this character and this game that I genuinely felt like a part of it. And the friends, the foes you'd make in this world felt so much more genuine. Everyone could and probably wanted to kill you, so meeting some random guy and deciding to team up and help each other progress felt so much more important. It created stories of betrayal, stories of overcoming the odds, creating guilds and protecting fresh spawns, or even just jumping everybody and causing as much chaos as possible, which was the most common. How hardcore this game was contributed so much to how toxic the community eventually became. Killing brand new players and team ganks were extremely common and made this world feel ruthless, scary even. It would give you a feeling of being terrified every corner you take, shutting every door behind you as you explore for fear of being followed. You'd learn every secret passage, every hiding spot, all for self-preservation. Rogue Lineage, not as a game but as something you experienced, was completely unique, and to me and many others was something truly special. Now that I've nostalgia glazed the game enough, I think I should go into what actually made this game mechanically interesting. Most of the games on the platform at this time were just anime copy-paste slop, but Rogue Lineage took inspiration from real fighting games with its mechanics. Dodging with iframes, blocking, perfect blocking, hyper armor, all sorts of mechanics that Rogue Lineage would adapt into its game, while expanding on it heavily with a unique spellcasting system which involved manually charging your mana, and each spell required a certain percentage rate on the bar you needed to target to successfully cast the spell. And if you missed the timing, you'd backcast the spell onto yourself. So if you were trying to cast Ignis and you fucked it up, then you just set yourself on fire. It also had climbing inspired by games like Breath of the Wild. The mechanics in this game just ran so incredibly deep. So many techs were developed and discovered to optimize every single feature of the game. It didn't take long before people figured out how to infinitely climb walls with spear dashes, stack moves, and true combo people into oblivion. To me, this made so many PvP fights just feel completely unwinnable because I wasn't amazing at different techs, but it didn't make me give up on the game. The more I played it, the more I learned these different techniques and I eventually used them to my advantage. I have this vivid memory of getting jumped by a shinobi at Orsfall, flying around the map with his grapples. There was absolutely no way I could escape him just by running. And with all of my practice learning infinite climb in private servers, it was either I'd get a guaranteed death by trying to run, or I risk it all, just for the tiny sliver of a chance that I could escape. I ran around the cliff behind the town and came face to face with the void. The shinobi right on my tail. I jumped off the cliff and started climbing away. Even while climbing over the void, he continued to follow me. The adrenaline only drew as I realized his climb speed was much faster than my own, meaning he would catch up to me pretty fast. And then I did it. I abused the infinite climb to continue getting away, and after a little while, he eventually messed up and fell into the void. I got away safely. Moments like this are what made Rogue truly special. I was so scared for my character's life, just like they would have been in that situation. And that feeling of overcoming the odds through pure hard work is monumental. The only thing I could compare it to was the feelings I got overcoming different bosses in Dark Souls 1 for the first time. I remember trying Ornstein and Smo over and over again the first time I'd ever reached it. I would have fail after fail and I kept coming back. And eventually when I beat it, it was so rewarding, but even then, nothing compares to the feelings Rogue gave me. Every death in Dark Souls, I could just come right back again and again. But in Rogue, it was all or nothing. My character's life was on the line. There was only one shot. And when you overcame those odds, the feeling of relief that would flood over you was unmeasurable. There's so many moments from Rogue that are so memorable to me. I remember being in a guild, winning my first gank, learning my first snap spell, and most importantly, getting my very first ultra class. For some reason back in the day, I decided I wanted to choose one of the most obscure and underpowered classes in the game, Abyss Walker. This class required tons of chaotic karma gotten through killing players, and a long-winded quest that involved you taking a special torch across the entire map. I remember how long it took me to get to that final quest. I watched a video on the route to take over and over again, memorizing it and engraving it into my head. And when the time came to do the run, I got the torch and began my adventure. And I got jumped halfway along the path. That was my character's final life. After all the work I had done, I was so close to getting my first ultra class, just to lose it. But I didn't give up. I was starting to taste strength in this game, and I wanted to reach my full potential. So, I did the entire progression in game, this time not losing as many lives, and I did the final quest without a hitch. After lighting the flame on the temple, you're supposed to jump into the void under it. Normally, this would kill you when you touch it, but Abyss Walkers are the only ones that can actually go through it, reaching a special area. And after completing the quest, this is where you're meant to go to obtain the class. I remember being so scared that my game would glitch and it would just kill me anyways. I was genuinely terrified, but of course, I built up the courage to jump in, and all went well. I met with the trainer and finally learned my very first Ultra class. I was so terrified of playing this character after finishing my first progression, so I basically just became a private server dweller, only using it for PvP where I wasn't at risk of losing it. This character felt so special to me. It was my very first Ultra class I ever obtained, and what's even more special about it is that it got a rare race variant on it as well, the glow screen. If I had wiped just once, I would have lost that variant, so it felt so special that I was able to complete my very first progression with it. As much as I can glaze the game, I would be lying if I said there wasn't issues with it though. It's the kind of game where you need friends to teach you how to play if you don't want to just be scouring the wiki for hours at a time. But even then, you still needed the wiki to play it. I was mostly only interested in the main world, Gaia, for most of my time playing Rogue, but there's another endgame world you can go to after obtaining your Ultra class called K. By the time I found myself interested in K, everybody I knew had already moved on from Rogue, so I had to figure it all out on my own. Thankfully, I got lucky and some nice blacksmiths saw me on my way there and decided to guide me all the way through the treacherous caverns of Sunken Passage. But by the time I actually found myself in K, I didn't really feel that much motivation to do it and learn all of that on my own. Part of what made Rogue so special was working with your friends to figure out things together. And nowadays, the Rogue experience definitely feels more lonely, as there's very little people still on the game, which is really sad. I took my character to K, but I never ended up actually progressing the Uber class, and it's something I want to go back to and do at some point. One of my longest goals in Rogue was to get the Azael race, which is obtained through an extremely rare artifact, which is more common in K. Somehow, with all of my years playing Rogue, I never stumbled across one in Gaia, but I hope to achieve that when I finally decide to explore K. After achieving my first Ultra class also, it became my goal to unlock every single class in the game, which is quite the task to say the least. I ended up getting 7 of the 18 Ultra classes in the game during my time playing it. Each one was a different adventure encompassing hundreds of hours, many deaths, and many memories. Someday I still hope to finally achieve that goal as well. Despite how many years have passed, Rogue is still on the back of my mind, and I always have the urge to go back. I truly miss the golden age during lockdown where the game was at its peak. Stuck at home because of COVID, Rogue carried that time for me. I had so many meaningful experiences that I'll never forget. So when I say Rogue was something truly special, that's what I mean. Now, it wouldn't be fair to talk about Rogue without mentioning the elephant in the room, Deepwoken.
You're Silent Heart, dude. Good lord.
No way, I won, no way!
Monad Studios, the team behind Rogue Lineage, primarily consisting of Raguzir, Archmage, and Grimkind. Originally, Rag and Arch had worked on a more niche game called Tales from the Valley, before eventually making Rogue. But after years of Rogue Lineage, they began teasing a new project codenamed Drowned Gods. It essentially pitched itself as a somewhat hardcore game like Rogue, but instead of being class-based, you would make your own builds with different talents, mantras, and oaths you could obtain. The world was much bigger and the lore ran extremely deep. Get it? Eventually, it released on December 20th, 2021, and I remember playing it immediately. Learning this game and getting lost in its vast world was extremely fun on release, but I would be lying if I said it was perfect. This game was not Rogue. It set itself apart a lot, which is a good thing, but it also didn't capture those same feelings. The permadeath was much more forgiving, player interactions weren't as necessary for progression, and it eventually just became a sweaty PvP game where people would just run 1v1s and chime over and over. The spirit of Rogue Lineage was completely lost with this game, I feel. Maybe not entirely, but it's definitely something completely different, while keeping a few mechanics. I love Deepwoken, but to me, it will never live up to what Rogue was for me.
You're about to witness.
Dude, we're gonna throw this guy off the edge.
Really?
Yes.
No way.
We're gonna fucking I just gave him a crit blade, a rail blade. Guys, this is what Deepwoken was meant to be. We gotta make like a chant out of it.
Sacrifice.
Sacrifice! Sacrifice! Sacrifice!
Sacrifice.
Sacrifice! No! Oh my god!
Over the years, most of the devs abandoned Rogue to work for Deep, but Grimkind has been the only dev to really consistently continue updating Rogue, adding new events every holiday, new classes, and improving the map in underdeveloped areas. So I'd like to take this part of the video just to show some appreciation for how much Grim has done for the game and his continued commitment towards it. My main goal for this video was just to finally spill out all of my feelings towards Rogue in one video so I can cement them for eternity, as well as just sharing something that was extremely special to me. Nowadays, Rogue only really sits around 300-ish players. I truly hope that it could come back again someday and experience another golden age. If you've never experienced Rogue, I highly encourage you try it out, but due to the no hand-holding way it's designed, it's obvious that it's very hard for new people to get into it without a friend who's already really passionate about it. Still, Rogue is special, and if you have any interest, I recommend you try it out. Rogue Lineage was also so inspiring to me that it eventually led to me making my own games, which I'll probably start posting content on soon. But I guess that's about all I have to say for this video. Join my Discord and maybe we can make a new Rogue house and do some community play sessions. If this video does well, who knows? Of course, also make sure to like, subscribe, all the things that I'm supposed to say so that the algorithm likes me. And yeah, I guess that's about it, so see you next time, Goobers.